Patience this morning as we got set for our first segment here with AD and DT, Athletics Director Bob Beretta, and myself, Dan Tortora, in our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with the Moyne College Dolphins. And from there, we will jump into my conversation with Brian White. If you want to know all about FAU, they got a ton of fans, but they've gotten a lot of fans over the last couple of weeks, and Brian and I, the VP and Director of Athletics at FAU, take a deep dive into everything FAU, from speaking on Boca Raton all the way through the fact that Brian was hired on the job. 2 days in, the basketball job became open, and within the first couple weeks of him being the VP and Director of Athletics, he made a decision on a coach named Dusty May, and 5 years later, they're in their first ever Final Four. We'll talk about that and so much more with Brian. And then you see that NCAA logo, which is the signifier that in the back part of this broadcast, 10:30 to 11 a.m. Eastern Time this morning, you will see my Q&As with every coach in the Final Four. You will hear from FAU's Dusty May in footage that has not been released, as well as San Diego State's Brian Dutcher. And I'll reflect upon my conversation, which has had a lot of people having the conversation further. Jim Larranaga and I, when we spoke about the national disrespect for the ACC, you'll see that. And you'll also see UConn's celebration in my conversation with their head coach, Dan Hurley, on his family on the court and his family off the court. Plenty of great stuff coming up here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and I appreciate you being here in a fun-filled, jam-packed middle of your week to give you something to smile about, I would like to think, as we're here on the broadcast. So with that being said, inside of these Cafe Kubal studios, I am honored and privileged to have Bob Beretta here with me in AD and DT with Athletics Director Bob Beretta, myself, Dan Tortora, speaking on the upcoming Phin Phrenzy this weekend on Saturday, April 1st, which will start off at 11 a.m., and overall spring sports. Bob, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Dan. How are you? Sounds like you're very busy these days.
It's the NCAA tournament is always a busy time of year, but I can honestly say that this is the most work that I think I have maybe arguably ever done with the NCAA tournament, and it's in a year where Syracuse isn't even in it. So it's been very rewarding, a lot of fun, coast to coast, and talking with a lot of different places and regions and whatnot, and at the same time keeping Lemoyne front and center. I wish you could see my computer when certain things were going on, when it's like lacrosse game, NCAA tournament, checking the feed on this. So yeah, Lemoyne is front and center, but in this tournament time where it's like weird in my brain because there's lacrosse and then there's basketball and they're intertwined with each other, it's still I don't know what to say other than the fact that you and I both don't sleep, but it's also very rewarding.
Yeah, I'm thrilled for my former colleague, Brian White at FAU. You know, he and I worked together at West Point for a couple of years.
Yeah.
In fact, when Brian left, I ended up moving into his office that he was in. At one point in time, I didn't want to vacate the office I had been in for so long. And when Brian left, the AD told me, "All right, now you're leaving your office, whether you would want to or not." And I moved into Brian's office at that time. So good people, really happy, thrilled for his success, and really a fan of FAU, the way they play, and hoping for great success to the Owls in the Final Four.
Bob, if you would have filled out a bracket, would it have looked like this?
No, no, not at all, not at all. I'd love to think that I would have had any of those schools advance,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't have, and I was never successful at filling out brackets anyway. But this year has been special. It's been a lot of fun to watch, and it's been exciting, exhilarating. I love seeing the new blood in the Final Four. I love seeing different teams that people didn't anticipate being there. There's been some tremendous stories.
Yeah.
I love watching players that may be unsung that get the spotlight and take advantage of that opportunity. And it's been a very entertaining month of March.
Yeah, no, March has definitely been mad, and there's been a lot of incredible finishes, a lot of fantastic storylines, and I told people, I mean, yeah, there's fan bases of each of these four schools, but in reality, whoever wins, we win, because all of these teams deserve it. They've earned it. I said yesterday that, let's be clear about something. The 4 number 1 seeds have all shown themselves. And 2 of them are 5s, one of them's a 4 and one's a 9, but they've all shown who the number 1 seeds are. And that, David versus Goliath story is really special. A 16 seed one in Fairleigh Dickinson. And I want to hit that note really quick here, because from 1997 to 1999, Tobin Anderson was an assistant coach at Lemoyne College for the men's basketball program. And I was very happy to share that as FDU defeated Purdue. The record against 1 seeds for 16 seeds was 1 and 150 at the time, and now it's 2 and 150. So they have that victory, Fairleigh Dickinson, and only the second team to do it in 152 tries. And Tobin having roots back to Division II, Central New York, Lemoyne College, I thought was really special. And I'd love to get your thoughts on that, because we speak on the fact that Dolphins are everywhere, but they really were in this tournament.
And they stick together. I don't have the pleasure of knowing Tobin, but I can tell you I know him through other people, and have heard his name multiple times. Our longtime radio voice, Chris Granozio, obviously knew Tobin when Tobin was here, and he would talk about Tobin. Since I've been here, I've heard him mention Tobin's name. He'd still go to watch Tobin's teams play when they were at Stack. And this past year, he went to FDU to watch a game just to support Tobin, spoke very highly of Tobin. But a great story that I hope he doesn't mind that I share this comes from Dan Sheehan, our fantastic men's lacrosse coach, 6-time national champion. And Danny was telling me he's one of the few coaches here, or really one of the few staff members in our department, that was here when Tobin was on staff.
Yeah.
And Dan was a young coach and got to know Tobin a little bit. And Danny told me that to this day, after each one of his national championships, he would get a handwritten note from Tobin as recently as 2 years ago, congratulating him on winning a national championship. So I think that speaks to Tobin Anderson's character. Yeah. We all saw that on the national stage. We saw how true, how real he is, how authentic he is when he talks to the media, but also his team. I think they were clearly the story of the tournament this year, and have brought great success and a great spotlight to Fairleigh Dickinson University, much like St. Peter's a year ago. And now Tobin is at Iona, right? He already was able to, from a personal standpoint, leverage that opportunity and move on to a little bit of a higher level. But he was a grinder. Someone like Tobin Anderson you root for, because he's not an overnight success. When people think that, he's an overnight success, look at his resume and look where he grinded and where he was at Hamilton, at Clarkson, at Lemoyne as an assistant, and then at Stack where he had great success. That's someone you really want to root for. He's not an overnight success. He's someone who became familiar to people overnight, but not to people in the industry. He's been a household name. Yep. His success has followed wherever he's gone, and I'm certain that he will continue that level of success at Iona.
Yeah, and I love that, and I appreciate that and that story. And I've heard things like that when you're telling me that he sent a handwritten note. Jason Leone, the head coach over at Oswego State, this season, his team made it to the first ever Elite Eight in the history of Oswego State. The men's basketball program had never made it that far. They did it by taking down reigning national champion Randolph-Macon. And Jason was speaking with me, and you can go watch that show, to those of you watching and listening, on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. We're at Mother's Cupboard, and Jason and I were talking about it, and he said before the game that they played Randolph-Macon to advance to the Elite Eight, he made 3 phone calls. And you'll appreciate this, Bob. Tobin Anderson, he made a phone call to Adam Stockwell, who is over at Hamilton, and he made a phone call to John Beeline, who also has a connection back to Lemoyne as the head coach there. So those phone calls happened this season. On top of that, Tobin's been watching his games throughout the year, and literally while he's coaching Fairleigh Dickinson, is watching these Division III Oswego State games and talking back and forth with Jason Leone about it, and then getting, the congratulatory messages and everything. And then he actually went down to the first 4, Jason did, with his wife Amber, and he was just supporting a friend. And he took a picture with Tobin before the game, put it out there, and little did anybody know that, Tobin Anderson was going to be a household name to everybody in just a couple days from there. So the reality that there are some fantastic people that have come through this community, it lives on. And Jason had this story of, here's this larger than life name now, but same thing. Handwritten notes, personal phone calls, text messages, and they being a Division 1 coach and not forgetting Division 2 and Division 3 and the places he's come from, and keeping a close tie on his friends and making sure that he watches different things and sees different things. So I thought that was fantastic, and I also think it's pretty special when you hear the phone calls that Jason made, and to hear Coach Beeline's name again too.
Yeah, it really is, and it speaks to character and all about Lemoyne. It's very authentic. People here are genuine. The pass through here are authentic, and yeah. I think Tobin is a great example. Now it's been 25 years since he stepped foot on campus as an assistant coach here. He may have returned to campus since then, but as an assistant coach, and to see that he still retains a lot of the things that we talk about that are important from a value standpoint here at Lemoyne. I'm a big fan. I've never met him, but was thrilled for him and really happy for his success. And again, I'm sure that he's going to continue the great success that Coach Pitino has brought to Iona here in recent years. And Iona is going to remain a force in mid-major basketball without question.
That coming here from Bob Beretta in AD and DT. And you brought up Dan Sheehan, so a perfect dive into this weekend. The Phin Phrenzy coming up this weekend starting at 11 o'clock. There is a double-header lacrosse games going on, and we're going to start with the women's lacrosse team at 11 o'clock. It's going to be followed by the men's lacrosse team, and the Phin Phrenzy here for the spring is going to be a fan-centric event, as they have been done indoor and outdoor by Ted Grant Field and in right there with Ted Grant Court. Bob has been here bringing this Phin Phrenzy to life in a consistent basis, and I would love for you to share what this Saturday, April 1st, is going to look like for those fans that show out to Ted Grant Field.
Yeah, again, thanks, Dan, for the opportunity to talk about this. It's important that we try to be equitable across all lines. So we had a Phin Phrenzy in the winter, and just a few weeks back, early February, it seems like it was yesterday, and we did one in the fall. We had great weather in the fall. I don't know that the weather is going to be quite as nice this Saturday, but I have seen as recently as about an hour ago, 68 degrees on Saturday. Yep. They're predicting some rain, but hopefully that's going to be later in the day. So if the rain holds off, it's a great opportunity to come out in early April, I should say, April 1st, and watch a couple of lacrosse games. We're going to have food trucks here. We are going to have hopefully some youth teams at halftime do some things for us on the field. We have T-shirt giveaways. Just an opportunity to come out and celebrate. We'll do post-game autograph sessions with the players for both the men's and women's team, for young people that come out and want to take pictures and autographs with our players. And this is the number 1 lacrosse team in the country at the Division 2 level. So if you're a young lacrosse player, you'd want to come out and get some pictures taken with the top talent in the country. And our women's team is ranked 8th in the country. They suffered a loss on Saturday, disappointing performance down at Pace, and they have an opportunity to get right back on the horse today and take on another NE10 opponent. So hopefully they'll be coming off a victory. And the men had a tough challenge yesterday and fought off a really talented Pace team down in Pleasantville and to remain undefeated. Our men were down in that contest 6-2. I think it was 6-3, 5-2 and 6-3, and came back and won 12-8. So great opportunity to come out and watch some quality lacrosse, but also interact if you have young kids or if you're on the younger side watching this and you want to come out and talk to some of our players, interact, have pictures, autographs. Saturday is a great opportunity to do that here at Ted Grant Field.
Yeah, and excited about, what this can be. The fact, and like you said, I mean, these two teams for men's and women's lacrosse at Lemoyne this season have been ranked at the top of things, and nationally, not regionally, not in the state of New York or anything like that. We're not in the conference. We're discussing nationally to be a top ranking or within the top 3. And so both of these programs, Liz Bevel with women's lacrosse, Dan Sheehan with men's lacrosse, have been fantastic leaders. And when we talk about players of the week and games of the week and things to go back and watch and dominant finishes in a lot of cases, this season has given so much back to the Heights already. And, there's plenty more lacrosse to be played. So, I think that we're pleasantly spoiled here in Central and Upstate New York. And I hope that continues for both of these coaches, because they started off hot. They played a lot of ranked teams, taken down a lot of ranked teams, each of them. And they have really, really, I would hope, ignited the fan base. And these people show out when there was snow, when it was 30 degrees, when there was ice everywhere. They were showing out to these games. So the Phin Phrenzy, I expect nothing less with better weather and these teams deeper into their season. But I do want to give credit to Liz and to Dan, because they have done a tremendous job once again and continue to fight in a way that is remarkable nationally. And I think that that's really special. When you have a team ranked at the top in the upper echelon in men's and women's lacrosse, it not a lot of colleges can say they have one team ranked, let alone two.
No doubt about it. It's a legacy here at Lemoyne, a legacy of excellence, and I'm thrilled to be part of being able to, some small way, help continue that. But really, the credit goes to Dan Sheehan, all the work that he's done on the men's side, and the players that have come in our past and in our program now, and certainly Liz Bevel, what she's done in the short time that she's been our head coach and made us very competitive on a national front. So we hope that there'll be great things down the road. We hope that we'll be hosting some NCAA championship events later in April, but we do have two other significant events coming up in the middle of April. This is the 30th season of women's lacrosse on the Heights. So we're going to celebrate that on April 15th and bring back former players to a game that we have, and that'll be an awful lot of fun. And then the following day, we're going to celebrate the 75th anniversary of the baseball program at Lemoyne. I'm a huge proponent, Dan, of celebrating success and trying to honor achievements and milestones. And so we have two right before us here this spring. Really looking forward to that 75th anniversary baseball celebration that's open to the public. We have a brunch. We're going to officially retire a couple of numbers, Coach Rockwell being one of them. We have a little ceremony at the field after the brunch, and the brunch is open to the public. People can sign up on our website if they want to attend. We have over 50 former players and family members coming back to that as of now, and we still have 2 or 3 weeks to gain people to sign up for it. So we're looking forward to that. That'll be a fun event, 10 o'clock on the 16th, and then we'll have a ceremony down on the field with something special lined up down there. So a really exciting month of April for us. Is blessed to have an athletic program with so many things to celebrate. And so we love to hold parties. We love to entertain people, bring them on campus, tell our story of our great athletic and academic programs here on the Heights, but also our students to be part of that. And we feel like we're providing many opportunities here throughout the month of April to do that.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that, these aren't just games, these are events. And there's a difference between the two of them. And since you've come on to the Heights, Bob, there's been an attention to detail of these, and many different sports having the opportunity to connect with that, from soccer to lacrosse to, baseball and as well as basketball coming up. And I love the vibe that we've been seeing and the different pieces, the food trucks, having the Beeville band come up with Casey and his crew, and all of these different ways to really reach out to fans. I love the autograph sessions and whatnot, because, to a fan of any age, when you have a moment like that, I've still never forgotten, going to the Harlem Globetrotter games, getting autographs, going to see local teams, getting autographs. I remember my dad bringing me places, or my godfather bringing me places, and getting to get something signed right here in our community. And those moments, to me, they don't leave me. 9 years old, 5 years old, it doesn't matter. So, to a kid who loves lacrosse, coming out this weekend is inspired to play and wants to play and has a favorite player on their team, to come down there on the field, shake their hand and look up at them and have them slap them high five and sign something for them, that kid's going to remember that for the rest of their life. And so I think that, these Phin Phrenzy events, they go so far beyond the game, and they create memories and long-lasting relationships that really do, ignite. I mean, there could be a kid this weekend that gets an autograph and meets a player, and that could be a moment in their life that they remember forever, that pushes them to be who they are. And who knows, maybe they'll be on Ted Grant Field someday too.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Dan, I think it only reinforces the fact that our young people here at the Heights and at other colleges across the country, they serve as role models for these young people without even knowing it. I think back to a special event that we put on at West Point. We put on the Hudson Valley Baseball Classic, and myself and my counterpart at the time from Marist, Travis Teletachi, who's the incoming commissioner of the MAC, as a matter of fact, we put this event on, and it was the battle of the two Division I schools in the Hudson Valley, and we would play it at a minor league ballpark, and we had fireworks, and we brought a lot of the pageantry from Army football with skydivers and color guards and all these type of things. We did a kids clinic before the game, and then we would have an autograph session about 15 minutes while the field was being maintained and prepared for the game. And we had an autograph session. And my daughter was young, and she works now at the athletic department at Penn State, but she was young. She'd come over with me during the day, and she would be amongst hundreds of kids trying to get all these autographs of our student athletes. And she still has the autograph tablets that we did. And some of those kids that she got autographs went and played in the minor leagues. And so it wasn't so much that, it was at that age, the impact that our student athletes can have on young people, you cannot underestimate the value of that. So anytime our student athletes have a chance to interact with the community, we want to promote that, because our best resource at Lemoyne is our student athletes, without question. So we want to put them front and center and put them in a place where our community has the opportunity to interact and get inspired by them, just like I get inspired by them every day.
Yeah, that coming from Bob Beretta here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora in our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with the Lemoyne College Dolphins, AD and DT. And I love that you said that, being inspired by them. And through these Dolphin Dive stories we've gotten to tell in our partnership, I have met so many, and I tell people this all the time, there's not a single student athlete, coach, future Dolphin, Dolphin alum, anybody in administration, everyone that's been a part of the Dolphin Dive, they've had a story to tell, and they've had an interesting angle on how they got there and about their life. No story has been chalk, as they call it, a simple, I grew up, I thought about this, I went to Lemoyne, and that's it. I mean, everyone has a personality and a view on things, and is good. I didn't walk away from shaking a hand in a conversation and think, wow, that person's not really a nice person. I walked away saying, wow, that story about your mom inspired me. That story about, the death that you had in your family and your faith and what you've taken from that inspires me. The fact that you want to help people and the way that you go about it inspires me. The fact that you're humble when you've just won so many different things, is inspiring. So there's all of these stories to tell, and I genuinely love telling them. And one of the greatest things was with Tracy Roman recently is, Tracy spoke with me about overall in the country, a lack of love when it comes from the media to softball. And we got to not only tell Tracy's story, but we got to tell an extensive, really sit down conversation to get to know Tracy, get to know Lemoyne softball, get to know why, and to talk about the game. And it was so moving that I had people reach out to me that didn't have a connection with Lemoyne, that were just happy to see softball get a spotlight. So, to me, there's so many wonderful stories to tell, and Lemoyne brings it because Lemoyne has the people to do it. And, Bob, I've said it, and I'll say it a million times over, this multimedia marketing partnership has spoiled me. I blame you and Linda and everybody on the Heights, because exactly what I wanted to do, it's been that and more, because of the people. The people have made it what it is, and isn't that the case in every situation?
No, it really is, and it's been a mutual benefit. I can tell you, we wanted to make sure we partnered with someone who valued that shared the same values that we do here and that we espouse within our athletic department and at Lemoyne, and we found the perfect partner to do that and provide the platform to tell those stories, because you appreciate those stories, and I know they're not lost on you. And being from someone so ingrained in the community, being a product of this community, and so many of our student athletes are. You've heard me refer to Lemoyne as Syracuse's hometown team, and I believe that deeply. When you look at our roster, it's bared out, whether it's soccer, volleyball, baseball, softball, or the lacrosse teams. they're predominantly made up of people in this community. And many times those young people stay and become leaders in all sectors of society in this community. So what better team to come out and root than your hometown team?
Yeah, and you can do that this Saturday, April 1st, starting at 11 o'clock. Bob, I will be there. You will be there. And I'm hoping that, God, the weather will be there. So, very, very excited. We've had some awesome days. What does it do for you as an AD to see events like this? Because you go to, and I don't know how it's possible, but it happens. You're on the road with one team, then you jump over to another team, then you hop on a plane after driving in the car, then you're back on campus and you're back on the road, then you're on campus at one game, going over to the other game, driving to this one a couple hours away, going back to campus. You make it a point that there's not one, in my opinion, not one single sport on campus that feels like, oh, well, we have our AD around, and then another sport saying, well, he never comes around this game. You somehow find a way to be seven different people. You and I have talked about it off the air and a bit on the air, but why do you do it? Because I think people in your world would totally understand, like, Bob's going to take 45 minutes to go eat lunch, but you always find a way to get out there and make it a point to talk with teams, go to practice, go to games, and show your face so that they know that they have your support. And I know you know this, but there's not every AD is like that. So why is it so important to you that your student athletes and your coaches have FaceTime with you?
Well, thanks, Dan. And I've said this before. I don't really look at it that way because I'm a fan. I'm a fan of all of our programs. I'm a fan of our young people pursuing their passion. I enjoy it. I got done my day yesterday, and our volleyball team, their season begins in the fall, but we hired a new head coach, and they're out there yesterday, 5:30, 6 o'clock, scrimmaging OCC, and I go out and I want to watch them for an hour because I want to watch how those young ladies are reacting to our new coach and see how happy they are with the new leadership and enjoy watching them. I guess perhaps it's because I bring so many different perspectives, Dan, and that I was a student athlete, so I know how much it's valued to go to practice. When I was at Army, I'd go to football practice every day, and I just thought nothing of it. And then the players come up and they tell you, hey, we really appreciate you being out here all the time. And the assistant coaches too. So I think I don't do anything for those reasons. I do it for selfish reasons because I really enjoy being there. I enjoy being out. But it is important to me that there's equity, that the swimming team feels like I'm there, and that the tennis team feels like I go watch them play and support them as well, that no one is left behind. We talk about equity and comprehensive excellence. I talk about that for myself as well. I don't want to focus on our men's lacrosse team because they're the number one team in the country. Hey, I get it, and they're really important, but so is our track team that doesn't have facilities on campus. So I'm working every day at trying to make their lives a little bit better and their experience become a championship experience, even if it's 5 years down the road with long-term facility planning. But I enjoy being out at competitions. I try to schedule my meetings here on campus around any home event that we have. I just block my day, and unless the president's going to call a meeting for me, I refuse to take a meeting. If we have a lacrosse team playing at home at that time, or the soccer team playing a game, I won't do that. I try not to schedule a meeting when they're on the road. I had one yesterday, and I ran back here to watch our men's lacrosse team on Zoom, and I missed the first quarter and was disappointed by that. But I'm just really a fan. I'm very vested. I'm all in. When I do something personally, I'm all in. And whether it was the year that I coached at Army at softball, I was all in. And I only know one way. And I feel like, hey, we get the opportunity to do this. If I walk out tomorrow, there'll be hundreds of people lined up. So I have the privilege of leading this athletic program. And I think I do have an obligation to our student athletes, every single one of them, to show support and to make them feel like they're valued. And they are. It's not just a sign of support. To me, I value all of them, and I enjoy being around them. It invigorates me. It inspires me. And again, I come at it from the parent of a student athlete, an administrator, and a former coach. So I feel like I bring all those different perspectives. And I know one thing for sure. I know that there won't be ever any negative coming out of an athletic director attending an event. So whether there's great positives or not, I know that no one's going to say, wow, why did the athletic director? We don't want him around. So I know that it's only goodness there, and I enjoy it. So for me, it's following my passion as well. It's through a work of love, and it's not work at all to me. I'm blessed to have this opportunity, so I try to take advantage of it and try to serve. My leadership style, I think, is based on servant leadership, and I think that's what we're here to do. We're here to serve our student athletes and our coaches, and try to provide them with an experience that we call it a championship experience of comprehensive excellence. And when they look back at their time on the heights, they look back with fond memories.
That coming here from Bob Beretta. Bob, quick question here, and I appreciate all of that, and I appreciate your connection, your hard work, your dedication, and your determination. And, I like being around people that push me because that's who you're supposed to surround yourself with, people that make you better, and you are one of those people. I did get a question that came in here really quick, and it's funny that you brought up Army and the football program. The question is Andre Carter II's future in the NFL, and just what your thought is. He can be making history this year as a highly sought-after player inside of the NFL draft, and he's coming from Army, so you don't typically always get to hear something like that. What are your thoughts on Andre Carter II?
First of all, he's a terrific young man. He was a sophomore when I departed West Point, talented beyond belief. We knew at the time he was projectable. He was a young defensive player that was just emerging into a force. He was a force in our bowl game when I left against West Virginia that year. And we just knew that he was going to be someone that the next level would take great interest. I was really disappointed when the policy was changed this fall, and it didn't stay changed for long. At least it grandfathered Andre and people like Andre in, because Andre turned down a lot of opportunities. He could have left West Point prior to his junior year and not had the commitment to stay on. But the policy was in place that allowed for him, if he had a pro contract, to pursue that pro career and then defer his service time. So I thought that was going to be wholly unfair and an injustice if they then took that opportunity away from him when he stayed. And he could have left. He could have gone to any Division I program in the country, but he showed loyalty to West Point. He displayed loyalty to the United States Army, and really is intent on serving his country when his professional aspirations are over. And for them, I felt it would have been very short-sighted and would have been dishonorable to a degree, to be candid with you, if they changed the rules of the game in play. And they made that Congress put that forth. They changed it a couple of days later because of the backlash. It wasn't the United States Army making that change. It was Congress making that change in the policy, and they at least grandfathered those young people in. I do believe, I'm a big proponent of what the professional aspects can do to benefit the service academies. I do believe that they should have the opportunity to pursue those passions immediately. I understand that that's not the mission of the academies. Their mission is to graduate future leaders of our country and lead our sons and daughters into battle, but they'll still do that. And I feel that the few opportunities every year across the Air Force Academy, the Naval Academy, and the Military Academy, where there are those very few instances of opportunities for players to go play, I think the service academies will realize benefits in spades in the positive publicity and bring more young people to those academies if they can pursue their dreams and then still defer that service. They're not going to go and just enter the pros and never go back and serve their country. They're going to serve their country. And, I'm thrilled for Andre. I'm thrilled for his opportunity. It looks like he's going to be potentially a second day draft selection. I know earlier on he was going into the year projected to be potentially a first round pick. But I also feel like this year, having watched the games, all of them, he was being double teamed, triple teamed, held, tripped, clipped, you name it. They were making sure that Andre Carter didn't defeat them, the opponents, I'm saying. So Andre had his work cut out for him this year. He still showed well. He's going to do extremely well at the next level. High character person. I'm thrilled for him, and I can't wait to see where he's selected and follow his professional career. And then he will honorably serve our country without question, and he will be a fantastic representative of the United States Army as a future leader for our country.
That coming from Bob Beretta. And by the way, if you want to know where Bob was anytime there was a game, if he was at a game, he was at a game, focused on the game and focused on the game. And if you heard Bob whisper some type of upset moment, it was because the feed wasn't working or somebody's on the 2-yard line. So yeah, I think that streaming platforms that cover Army, West Point's sports have been more than they will stay alive thanks to Bob Beretta. That's what I will say. Those streaming platforms will forever be okay because of that. So Bob, as always, I appreciate the time. I thank you. I look forward to seeing you this weekend. I know you and I have been running all over the place in an effort to make this community better. So I appreciate all the work that you have done. And I'm very, very excited that thing we talked about off the air that has to do with the Dolphins and maybe one of the greatest, I think the greatest place for ice cream, that is already and set in motion. So something with the Dolphins and the show and Carvel is on its way, and I look forward to sharing one of those with you.
I can't wait, and I look forward. You tell me when, and we're gonna go. We're gonna go sample that without question. Look forward to it.
Yeah, Bob got into my brain because apparently I picked his favorite ice cream without even knowing. So, with that being said, Mr. Beretta, thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you this weekend. I know it's going to be a fantastic event, and I can't wait to do it. So, thank you for everything you're doing.
Look forward to spending time with you, Dan. And please, to the folks out there, your fans and audience, come out and join us. It'll be a great day at Ted Grant Field, and come up and say hello if we're around. We'd love to meet you.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk with you soon.
Great, Dan. Thank you.
Thanks. Take care, Bob.
Fins up, Dan.
Fins up. So with that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life, always fins up here inside of the Cafe Kubal studios and all amazing, incredible, and wonderful Moyne Dolphin he has brought to it. Dr. Linda Lemura, the coaches, the support staff, the trainers, and the student athletes, as well as the families that love up all of these wonderful people that make the Heights what they are. So a big thank you to anybody and everybody who is connected to Lemoyne and this wonderful community. With that being said, we're going to take a step aside for a very quick, fast break. When we come back, you'll hear from Brian White in our conversation. Florida Atlantic University's VP and Director of Athletics, Brian White, joins me for a deep dive into FAU and to everything that has happened over the years, because this was not built overnight. And Dusty May, in his 5th year, the team's heading to the Final Four. But we're going to go behind the scenes into FAU, to a team that so many people have loved over the years and so many people over the last couple of weeks has come to love. We'll get into the story of Florida Atlantic after this.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Kubal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafekubal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Kubal needs. Cafe Kubal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315 487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, hanging out with you where sports meets life. And we appreciate you being here on youtube.com, facebook.com as both / Wake Up Call DT and wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. Worldwide, we've had the opportunity to cover the NCAA tournament in a bigger way than we ever have from coast to coast. And that FAU team, they're all right. So they're heading to the Final Four for the first time ever, and I am picture in picture with the leadership of Florida Atlantic University, what it's like to win in paradise. And we've talked about it before. VP and Director of Athletics, Brian White. Brian, how are you?
Doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing well. So you and I spoke a while back when the announcement was made about FAU joining the American Athletic and the whole hashtag winning in paradise and all of that. To know that the world is seeing the branding of FAU right now, not just basketball, but overall, has got to be pretty special from your seat to know that there is a giant spotlight on the university as a whole.
It is. We're very proud of the success of obviously our men's basketball program, but the whole athletic department advancing, you mentioned, into the American and the growth of the whole university. You know, academically, we've improved. Enrollment on campus has improved on campus residents. So it's definitely an ever-improving university and a great place to represent.
To those who don't know Boca Raton, Florida, and what it means to win in paradise, how would you describe that?
You know, I would say we're a beautiful campus. We're in, to me, maybe the most beautiful place in the country, Boca Raton, Florida. We all know we're 1.8 miles to the beach. We're the only FBS football stadium in the country with an ocean view. We actually have some on-campus residences with an ocean view. It's really an incredible place, but it's also a place with extremely high ambition and extremely high potential. You know, we're one of the best recruiting areas in the country in terms of high school athletes, and we're a growing university. We're kind of like the up and coming stock. We're not your mature brand. We're pretty young as a university, and because of that, we have a fun young alumni base, and we have a great student showing at all of our athletic events. Our student attendance has been phenomenal, and they bring great energy. So it's a great place to be.
It's been pretty, like you said, you're a younger university. You look at back in the IAAC or the TAAC, pardon me, 1993-94. I mean, this basketball program is not that old. When you see Final Four with a team that didn't start back in the 20s or the 30s or the 50s, but back in 1993, it is pretty remarkable how this university at Florida Atlantic has really ramped up. Do you reflect upon that and say, like, hey, college basketball for us started in 1993, right before the 21st century?
It's nuts. And we do reflect on it because a lot of the people are still here. So that's what's pretty cool is, you know, our history isn't 100 years ago. You know, our history is, 20, 30 years ago from when we started. So a lot of our fans and donors and alums, they were at those first games, and they have stories from and the football program started even later in 2000. But they have stories from the very beginning. So we're very close to our origins, and it's a regular conversation. We're very proud of it.
There's a guy at Tennessee. His name's Danny White. I don't know if you guys are of any relation. And so, obviously kidding. So him being there after being at UCF, you just so happen, because the world of sports is very poetic, FAU takes on Tennessee. So en route to your first ever Final Four as a school, you had to go through Tennessee and your brother. How was the interaction before and after the game with Danny?
Great, and exactly how it always is. It's happened before with Danny and my other brother Mike, and Danny before they played us. Tennessee played Duke, where my father had just recently retired. So a whole lot of connections there, and for us, it was great to spend time with them beforehand, and then afterwards, I'm obviously incredibly excited for myself, but I'm sad for Tennessee, and I root for them anytime they're not playing us. And And Danny was very happy for us. But understandably, he wanted to win as well. So probably a little more awkward than our normal interactions, but still, I think he was genuinely happy for us.
You seem like with your father and your family as a whole that there's some playful competition. So have you sent any fun messages or made any phone calls or had any dinner table moments? I mean, I would imagine getting to know you and spending some time with Danny at UCF that it would be fair to say that there has to be some type of competition in a way.
It's funny. We're all very competitive, and we do talk a lot of trash about everything that doesn't matter. Danny's got a big head, so we call him Superdome. We all got, things that we make fun of each other for, but, losing a game is not that to us it means too much. So we don't trash talk about any of that, as odd as that may sound to the fans, because I think most people think that I'm texting them, "We beat y'all, we own you," whatever. That's not how we operate.
That coming here from Brian White, and Brian here with me, VP and Director of Athletics at FAU. I'm going to read off some history, and it's going to take a minute for me to get your answer because FAU has done a couple things this time around. Never won an NCAA, had only played in the NCAA tournament one other time from 1993 to now. The men's basketball team had never won an NCAA tournament game. That happens. Never advanced to the round of 32. That happened. Winning in the round of 32. Advancing to the first Sweet 16 in history. Winning the Sweet 16. Advancing to the first Elite Eight. Winning that Elite Eight game. And advancing to the first Final Four. So it's not just one thing or one move. It's winning, advancing, winning, advancing, winning, advancing, and continuing on here. There's a lot of history that a VP and Director of Athletics has to build upon, because some schools would say, we won our first NCAA game. We advanced to the Sweet 16 for the first time. We made it to the Elite Eight for the first time. You're doing all of these firsts in one season within a few days of each other. And that, to me, has to be an incredible journey for you all to take together. Your thoughts?
Absolutely. No, it's incredible to watch. I mean, all the credit goes to we have a really special group of student athletes and coaches. And it's just so much fun to have watched them develop over the last few years. Some of us that are closer to the program, have been preaching how great this team was going to be. I think it's harder when you're not close to the program to see the genuine hard work they put in every day, the way they get along, the way they like each other, the way they're all about the right things. There's a great culture in the program. And with that, you've seen student athletes really get better. The individual player development has just been off the charts with some of these players to where they are now to where they were 3 years ago. But yet, as a team, they stick together. They're very connected. It's just been incredible to watch, and like I said, it wasn't just a splash in the pan one year. Heck, we only have one senior, but it's been a developmental program, and it's been incredible.
There's this guy in your program, Dusty May, and he's all right as well. And you hired Dusty, and your story of when you hired Dusty is very incredible. You and I were talking off the air about it. His first season at FAU was 2018-19, and this being his fifth season. Bring me into you hiring Dusty May, because it was your hire, but it came at a time that was very unique in your tenure at FAU.
The search opened my second day on the job, and we where we made the change, and then made the hire, I think, in less than a week or two. It was a pretty fast process, and started here, and I was actually living in the on-campus housing with my two kids at the time, two young kids at the time. I think they were a newborn and a 2-year-old. They're 7 and 5 now. My two oldest, we have a 1-year-old as well. And I still remember it was the first was a lot of phone calls, and you do reference calls. So I'm walking around campus over the weekend, and campus is pretty quiet weekend. And I'm taking a lot of phone calls, reference calls, et cetera. And then I do the phone interviews here in my office on campus. And after the interviews, I'd worked with Dusty before. There was some familiarity there. But also they had won the conference USA, which we're in 2 years in a row, won previously the WAC, So 3 regular season conference championships in a row, new success at our level, but also they were having some good success at Florida. And so to have the Florida connection as well as the Conference USA connection, I thought was pretty unique. And then within the phone interview process, he was just extremely impressive, as I'm sure you've heard him or probably spoken with him. And he just is an incredible communicator. He's very bright, but also I know him to be a tireless worker and a great, very talented relationship person. And that goes to his staff, to his student athletes. So there's just so many things that stood out about him in the throughout the process, but also me knowing him personally, that it just kind of stood out to me as the one we should target and go all in on. So really, he was the only one we brought to campus, and we went all in and closed the deal and hired him within a couple of days after that. Never looked back.
And you said you had history with Dusty before hiring him at FAU. Speak on that history and how you crossed paths and what you took from it.
We both worked together at Louisiana Tech. I was an associate athletic director at Louisiana Tech and revenue generation, things of that sort, kind of on my path, how I came up. And Dusty was an assistant basketball coach there as well. So got to know him there, and he worked for my brother there, and then again at Florida, but really well at Louisiana Tech. I just, not only from my brother's perspective, got a lot of inside information on just how he was as a tireless worker each and every day, great energy every day. I mean, he's one of those people that just, if he's had a bad day, nobody else knows he's had a bad day, because it sure doesn't seem like he's ever had a bad day, and just brings it every single day. And to me, that's a talent. So I was always, I always kept him in mind as somebody, if I ever had a coaching opening, that would be one that he'd be on my short list. And I've always been really impressed with him.
So for you, was there interest from him when that job opened, or was it you just saying, like you said, he's always been on my radar?
There was mutual interest. I mean, we connected pretty early on. He was one of my first phone calls after the job opened up. So there was definitely mutual interest. And at the time, he's on the road, I believe, recruiting for Florida, and he's got a million things going on. And I'm running a search. Just took an AD job 2 days ago, just at the press conference. We had a million things going on, so it was a little bit of a whirlwind. But yeah, I definitely think the familiarity was probably a positive thing for him, with us having worked together, and he was obviously familiar with the state of Florida, and this region, I think, is an appealing region for really anybody. Beautiful place to live.
This coming from the VP and Director of Athletics at Florida Atlantic University, Brian White, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. He's been there for, speaking of Dusty May, been there for 5 seasons now. You just said that interaction and reasons why he was enticing to hire and his attitude and whatnot. But there's a difference between hiring someone and keeping someone. Why have you believed in Dusty May before the world saw him? Why have you believed that he was the right leader for the job for the last 5 years?
For the same reasons we hired him, but also, it's easier to believe when you're closer to the program. I'm at practices. I'm obviously at every game, and I see that consistent energy. I see that our players have gotten better every year within the program. Heck, we only had 5 winning seasons in the history of our program prior to Coach May arriving. He's had 5 straight winning seasons, each one with a winning percentage better than the last. So he's proven it each and every year. I know nationally, the attention goes, oh, he's at the Final Four this year, didn't make the tournament last year. But when you start off at a program that is as down as it was, you don't always see progress from afar. But it was easy to see firsthand here. And I think our student athletes, our fans, our season ticket base is growing every year. Those that follow FAU basketball closely, I think, have believed in Coach May all along.
Why do you think the team is winning? What is it about, like you said, being close to the program, being around the program, the relationship you have to the program is different. And I've said this before and in this week on the show, that it's so easy for people to run to the FAUs and the Miamis and the UConns and the San Diego States now because you're all on that national stage. But you're there every day for years, seeing the growth, seeing the maturation and whatnot. Why do you believe that this team is winning this season the way that they have been?
You know, I would say a variance of reasons that probably cause most teams to win. First and foremost, we have really good players, right? We're really talented, good players, but a lot of teams have good players and good talented players. I would say that the sum of our, that our whole is probably better than the sum of our parts. Even so, we do have really good players, but then they play better together because there is great connection in our players. Our players have an extremely high work ethic on their own. It's not, they don't just show up to practice and maybe go put up some shots later. They work really, really hard on their own to get better. We got guys going in on top of their regular strength and conditioning to do individual workouts and whatever they can do. They have a strong desire to get better as individual players, and I think that's a little bit contagious. And then I think obviously we have a really hardworking, intelligent coaching staff that do everything they can to help our players be successful. They love our players. I think there's some great relationships, and they want more than anything for them to be successful. And then probably just as importantly, our players are bought into that. They believe that their coaches are going to do everything they can to set them up to be successful. So I think there's buy-in on the game plan. There's buy-in on the practice plan. There's buy-in on everything they do. So great culture combined with some really talented, hardworking dudes. Just a special thing to watch.
This team, and like you said, the whole better than the sum of its parts. There's 9 guys playing out there, right? You got almost 5 coming off and 5 on to start the game. To see a deep team like this, where it's been described by other people during this run in the NCAA tournament, that you're not looking at 1 or 2 guys, you're looking at a group of players that and coaches have talked about, who do you guard? Because because it's not that this guy's good and that guy's good, it's that at any given night, someone's going to give to it. When you have a team that you can't have a defense shift to one area and one person for, because they're going to leave somebody else vacant. How cool is that as VP and Director of Athletics at FAU to see the Owls truly, I would say to play off of the Owl terminology, they stretch their wings pretty wide on the roster, and you can't really determine what feather is going to be the one that makes the team fly that day.
It's incredible. And I'll say this, I mean, it's a testament to their unselfishness. And that might be one of the most key words about our team is unselfishness. So the lineups have switched throughout the year. Nobody's got an ego that they need to be a starter, they need to be X or Y. The unselfishness of this team is huge. And then as you're watching, and I know our fans always love that, it's so unpredictable as to who's going to step up and be the star on a given night. It's great. You don't have, your classic, let's wait for this guy to get hot. If he doesn't get hot, we're in trouble. It's totally unpredictable who's going to step up and be the star on a given night. And I think it's fun for our fans to watch, but I think it also keeps our players locked in, that they know that in a given night that they need to be locked in and ready to go. So I think it's great all around.
Nick Boyd, this run almost didn't happen if not for a couple seconds left in a game and a layup by Nick with just under 3. It might have been 2.6 seconds, 2.5 on the clock. Bring me into that, because that moment is do or die, 66-65 or 65-64. There's always a run that teams make where you can go back to a game or two and say there was a split second of difference. Did your heart at any point stop? And when did it start to beat again against Memphis?
I think we were all in disbelief. I mean, and not that we didn't believe that we would score, but it was just such an incredible play. And it just happened so darn quick. You thought maybe it would be a long shot that you got to watch the ball in the air. He just took it right to the rim and scored so quick. Oh, it was incredible. It was maybe, the most exciting moment of sport I've ever witnessed in person. I mean, it was just awesome to see the way that play came about. And And that's another classic example. Two of our two leading scorers are being face guarded. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to give it to them. And Coach May makes a great decision to give Nick Boyd a chance. Nick Boyd asked for the ball, and he wanted to step up. And he's a great leader in his own right and a really talented player. And he just went for it and got us a bucket. So it was really, really cool to see.
Does it build anything in the background for you as a leader at FAU, knowing that Memphis will be on the schedule next season as a conference opponent in the American?
Memphis is a really, really talented team. Man, that game, as we just discussed, could have went either way. Memphis looks really, really good. So for us, I think it makes us feel confident that, we can play in that league at the highest level of that league. So, but going to the Final Four does too. It did at the time surely make us feel pretty good that, we thought it was a good test to go up against a good American team. First time in the tournament in a long time, only the second time in our history. And to be able to take that test to the wire, we felt good already. But then to be able to finish and close it out was a great feeling.
Brian White, VP and Director of Athletics at FAU, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Before I let you go, I want to know through your eyes this tournament. So have you been with the team all the way through from the beginning? Where are you sitting? When do you run out onto the court? Like what is, because I see myself as a VP and Director of Athletics, my reaction. And I see Dusty May saying, throw up the fours, boys. So I see those moments. So I want to know, where have you been with them all the way through, and where are you and how are you experiencing this run? Because through the eyes of the Director of Athletics and VP at FAU, it's a really special way to see it. And I know some leadership is very reserved and whatnot, and others are, running out, grabbing the hat and having a good time. So I want to know how Brian White has done this road.
Probably somewhere in between. We have a pregame donor reception, pregame alumni reception. I always go by there first and visit with all of our supporters that have come and traveled and love the team and connect with everybody I can. And then usually get into the arena at least probably an hour and a half early. And I'll sit, and there's institutional seats at the scorer's table that are kind of behind and a little bit towards the center court of the team bench on your side. And those seats require no cheering. We consistently break that rule, but nobody's ever disciplined us yet. But we don't go too overboard. I sit there with my president. We've had my board chair there as well, and kind of use those as our home base for the leadership team. And then at halftime, right before the game when the fans come in, and then again at halftime and post game, I'll go and visit with the fans and the donors, et cetera. And then I always go in the locker room post game and then on to the media session, which all of those things have been fun. The locker room after one of these wins is a pretty incredible place to be.
When FAU moved on to play the game against Tennessee, you did that by defeating one of the favorite teams that people were watching, was a 16 seed FDU and Tobin Anderson. I called that game David versus David because not a lot of people gave you a lot of credit. What was it like to win a game like that, knowing that obviously you want to move forward, but you were defeating a team that, like FAU, so many people were starting to really jump on? And like they say, when you're in these arenas and people go to the games and they don't have a dog in the race, they start kind of going with, the upset and going with the team that, is maybe taking the momentum at the time. What was the experience like of FDU versus FAU? Because David versus David had a lot of people saying, in a way, they kind of wanted both.
If you would have told me at the beginning of the year or last year or whenever that Florida Atlantic would be in their second tournament appearance of all time, first one in a long time, in the round of 32, competing for a chance to go to the Sweet 16, and we'd be the one everybody was rooting against, I would have never believed you. FDU had just an incredible run to be the 16-over-1, and more power to them, and that was special. So, in some ways, you're happy for them. It's nothing against them, but I just would have never thought that the common fan would be so strongly anti-FAU as if we were, Duke or Carolina in there. I mean, we weren't the blue blood. We were pretty ecstatic to be in there ourselves. We were making history ourselves. So it was unique to get, to get booed and the chance against, and so aggressively for FDU. It felt like the momentum in there was one our players actually, frankly, had to overcome, which was good for them, and they were strong-willed and didn't let them affect them. But I think that's real when you have the ball and everybody else is chanting for the opponent in the whole place, and nobody in there wants you to win. So that was cool. And then I think, in the later rounds, it maybe flipped the other way.
Well, and getting to that perfect segue, you're in the Garden, for you, in March, in the Garden, which I consider to be arguably, but to many people, the greatest venue. To go on this run with FAU and be the VP and Director of Athletics and to see this from your seat. The Garden is the Garden. And you have Tennessee in the Garden, you have Kansas State in the Garden, and watching this run, because I have watched this run, I am the person that'll be from noon to past midnight watching these games. So seeing this FAU run and knowing Madison Square Garden and having been there last year, that in and of itself, that moment can get too big for you. Why do you feel like FAU didn't get lost in the moment? Because they say some teams have to go into the Garden early, an hour or two early before practice, just to get their emotions right, because the Garden is it takes your breath away.
I just think we have a really special group. They're mentally stronger willed than I could ever be in the moment. I mean, just them going to the free throw line late and knocking down, doing really well on the free throw line in the Garden with so much on the line. It's just a strong-willed, confident group. They believe in themselves. So I just think it's a testament to them. And part of that's the composure of our head coach. I think it's pretty cool late in the game when, Dusty's smiling in a group when, and it's not just now, it's all year. It was a game at Florida early in the year. I remember the first time I noticed it. Towards the end of the game, we're down big and they were smiling with each other and building each other up. And, they just don't seem to feel a lot of pressure. It's unreal, but it's a strong-willed group.
You talked about having the crowd go against you with FDU. At the Garden toward the end of the Kansas State game. It could have felt maybe a little bit of the same way with Marquise Noel and him saying this is my city and how that's gone on. So bring me into that game, because FAU has gone from the, oh my God, they won it with 2 point whatever seconds left, to, well, we want FDU, to, all right, let's get excited against Tennessee, to, well, who's going to go against Marquise Noel in New York City? So there's been so many different ways that FAU has experienced the crowd for or against them. What was it like in the game against Kansas State and Marquise Noel?
I mean, I don't know that I noticed too much of a crowd swing either way. It was probably a little more balanced than the other two. We had a lot of supporters in that game as well that had come out. The New York contingency for us was pretty strong. It's actually New York is the tri-state area is our second biggest alumni base following Florida. So I felt like it was more balanced in that game. Marquise is a really, really talented player, and that was, a fun game to watch, a stressful game to watch, and just two really, really good teams battling it out. So probably a little more balance would be the answer.
And to end the game without allowing them to even get a shot up and advance to the Final Four, how beautiful and incredible of a moment was that Kansas State didn't even have the chance to tie the game?
Just a truly special experience to end the game, and more so, regardless of how it ended, just having certainty that Florida Atlantic was going to the Final Four was a pretty amazing experience. Incredibly emotional from a lot of the supporters, those that have been around a long time, the amount of people that had been around since the literally the inception of the program as fans and season ticket holders every year, and just the pure joy in the room amongst the fans in the stands was just great to see.
And in closing here, text message and phone call wise, how busy has your phone been? And has there been any truly notable messages that you've received that stood out to you?
A whole lot. It's buzzing literally right now. It has not stopped, and it's been near impossible to keep up. I mean, a bunch of them, too many to name one, but no, a whole lot, of really thoughtful messages, sometimes from people I hadn't spoken to in years, not for any reason other than we're all busy and everything else. So it's been very cool to see the kindness that people send you these messages, and it's been great. And then also we gotta fulfill a lot of tickets for the Final Four. So
and how has that been going?
It's been great. Yeah, a lot of interest. Really great. I think we were at over 14,000 requests for our 3,400 seat allotment. So we're excited about the just the growth of the fan base. We had so many new donors, people that have been maybe casual fans that are now wanting to buy flights to fly halfway across the country and buy tickets to go to the game, and are already asking about season tickets for next year. So that sort of thing is fun. But I think we've inspired this community, and there's just so much wealth and potential down here, but there's also so much to do. So you really need to have a lot of success to earn the fan base where we are, and we've done that. So it's we've done it more and more over time, but this really takes us over the top.
Well, I mean, and to get to that, just what the NCAA tournament can do in and of itself to almost overnight, it feels, change the donor connection, the amount of money raised, the fan base. I mean, for you, from your seat as VP and Director of Athletics at Florida Atlantic, what does the NCAA tournament do? Because you're witnessing it right now.
I mean, it galvanizes the fan base, brings people together. It the community as well. The students, the passion among our student base right now is through the roof. And there's a lot of metrics that show the more students are interested in athletics, involved in student groups, et cetera, the better they do academically. But also for recruiting, for enrollment, for applications, which then enhanced applications would then allow us to be more competitive with who we accept into FAU. It's all through the roof. I mean, just it's exposure that there's no way you could ever buy.
And for you, this team, 35 wins in 38 tries, 35-3, more wins than any other Division I men's basketball program of over 360 schools. So I guess it's been going okay at FAU for you, for this team. Words that you want to say in closing here, words you want to say to the fan base that's been with you from the beginning, as well as to all the new fans that are buying FAU hats and going out to the game coming up soon.
Just really grateful for our fans that have been with us for a long time, and grateful for the support. And we've been it's been a heck of a run the last 5 years and of improvement and growth. And there's been many that believed in us all along and stayed strong. And for those that have come along and helped us grow our fan base, that's great. That's exactly what we need. We're a young institution, like we mentioned earlier. We're not near our maturity, and there'll be a whole lot more people that we need to kind of join in from the community. So the future is very bright for FAU, and we could not be more excited about all of our sport programs. And this run is a great testament that we can have success in every sport at FAU.
Ending Conference USA time on an incredible note, and making a massive case on what you can be in the American Athletic Conference. Things are going well for FAU. Congratulations.
No doubt. Yes.
Congratulations to you, Brian, and thank you for taking the time. I know that phone's been buzzing, but you answered my call, and I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you. Appreciate the coverage.
In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville beats. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
This is Jim Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily, and then we bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand butter chicken. The food is milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have at any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student-athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout Central and Upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. This is a special message from 317 at Montgomery restaurant owner Joel Carpenter. Open Tuesday through Saturday for your dining pleasure on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York.
We wanted to be a part of the resurgence of Syracuse. We saw a lot of money being put into bringing people back downtown and thought that, we'd like to be a part of that. I love putting together a good dish where people see it first, they fall in love with it, and then it tastes just as good as it looks. We want to provide the best food in Syracuse that we possibly can, and we want you to leave here talking to your family, your friends about what you had to eat first and foremost, but also our service, and to walk out feeling like you're part of our family. I work out in the front of the house a lot, and I love walking to every single table, asking them how everything is, and people looking at me and smiling and saying, this is the most amazing short rib I've ever had. This is the most amazing filet I've ever had. And Donna is great. Sarah's amazing. Thank you for coming over and talking to us. And then them just being truly happy for the experience that they've gotten.
317 at Montgomery Restaurant, part of the fabric of downtown Syracuse, located on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York. Open Tuesday through Saturday for a unique and memorable dining experience. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Hanging out with you where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And can't thank you enough for hanging out with us on social media as well. On Facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT, on Twitter at CallDT, and on Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT. A lot of great stuff coming up inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin'. With that NCAA logo, you know that now it is time to jump into my conversations with every single team inside of the Final Four. We're going to start off with my conversation with my Q&A with UConn Huskies head coach Dan Hurley about family on and off the court. here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora as they celebrated their advancement to the Final Four under Dan Hurley. Dan Tortora, Wake Up Call, DT.com. Coach, at the end of the game, obviously you spent some time with your family on the court, and this family affair throughout this entire season has been truly special for you in a lot of different ways. What were some of the things that you got to kind of reflect upon with your parents there on the court after the game?
I mean, basketball's been a huge part of our lives because obviously my dad and you know what my dad taught me and my brother is that, you know, your basketball program is your family. Like we're all family. You know, these guys are as big a part of my family as, you know, anyone in my family. So yeah, it was great to enjoy. Yeah, like this group is a great group. I love coaching this team. I've gotten emotional. Andre saw me crying before the game, I think, right in there, because I just can't think about coaching this group for the last time. You know, it makes me sad. And sorry for overpronouncing that A there, but yeah, I mean it's just an incredible group of guys to coach. The additions that we brought in, right? Joey Cal and Naheem and getting Tristan back to Texas, right? To, you know, the El Paso guy gets back, Tinu gets back. It's just it's a family affair, both with my family and we're all family.
That coming from the coach of the UConn Huskies, once again, Dan Hurley, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora in our final piece of today's broadcast midweek as we get set for this Saturday, April 1st at night. So after you go to the Phin Phrenzy during the day, you'll have plenty of time to get yourself home for the Final Four to see UConn take on Miami and San Diego State take on FAU. So hearing from each of the teams, and I feel very honored and privileged that here in this year's Final Four, I have an opportunity of reaching out and building bridges to every single team inside of the Final Four. So for all the fan bases, no matter who you love, UConn, Miami, FAU, or San Diego State, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, you have an opportunity to see all of your teams in the spotlight. Next up, we have my conversation, my Q&A with Jim Larranaga of the Miami Hurricanes. This has been carried throughout, and a lot of people have seen it and discussed it. It meant a lot to me to ask this question because I don't think it's been right for the last 2 years. The ACC has taken a level of disrespect in the amount of teams that have gotten into the tournament, as well as the seeding. I spoke with Jim Larranaga going into their Elite Eight game before they advanced to the Final Four about the strength of the ACC and the national disrespect, and this is what Coach had to say.
Dan Tortora, Wake Up Call, DT.com. Coach, last season the ACC overall didn't get respect nationally before the season or throughout the season or in the tournament seeding. That happened again this year, and Miami is back for the second time in the Elite Eight. Just what you can say about the strength of the ACC and what you would like people to know about the conference and what it's been the last couple of years.
You know, I grew up an ACC fan. Frank McGuire was the head coach at North Carolina when I was growing up. My high school coach, Jack Curran, played for Frank McGuire in college at St. John's University. And so I became very familiar with the ACC and watching them. The 8 schools that represented the league back then, unbelievable competition. You'd always read about Carolina and Duke and Wake Forest and NC State. They're all competing for not only the ACC championship, but national championships. When I started my coaching career, it started when I was 21 years old and I was living in the state of North Carolina. And they were still playing the Big Four tournament in November, where those teams were facing each other early on in the tournament and then have to play each other again in the league play. It's been the best basketball league in the country for the last 60 years or more. And it upsets me to think that because we now have analytics and numbers that you have to know how to read those numbers. Right? Not everybody can understand them. Right? So you look at a team, let's use Houston as an example, and they're the 4th best rebounding team in the country. We're probably like the 400th best rebounding team in the country, yet we battled them even. Why? Well, our guys are good too. Our league is very good from top to bottom. I think there's been a lot of disrespect for the league that it doesn't deserve. And I got an email recently from Jim Phillips, our commissioner, saying we're going to address this as a league in our spring meetings and hopefully, get the committee to understand that our league should be respected a lot more seriously than it is right now.
Those words coming from Jim Larranaga, the head coach of the Miami Hurricanes, and I agree with him. We have seen these last couple years of the conversation of the Big Ten that has 14 teams, and looking at putting 8 in or 9 in or 10 in, and I think this year 8 got in. And the ACC, for whatever reason, last year and this year, has been considered, they're a down year, it's not really that great, the competition isn't that great, and yada yada. And I've never agreed with it. I'm not on record of saying it once. And you can check the tape on that. I cover the ACC for the last decade. I have very heavily covered the entire ACC, all 15 schools. I've watched these games. I've seen these teams. When I'm at the ACC tournament, I'm there for everything. And I don't get it. I don't get this, I don't understand the disrespect. I really don't. And I think that Jim Larranaga has every reason to feel the way he feels and be as passionate as he is. And I asked him the question because, Miami's carrying the banner, but of the 8 Big Ten schools, most in the country of any conference, where are they? SEC? Where are they? You know what I mean? And we look at this, it's Mountain West has never sent a team to the Final Four. San Diego State made history. Conference USA, people weren't talking about them and if they were good, and they didn't let any other teams outside of the team that won their conference tournament in FAU. But look at where they are. Okay? UConn, Big East got respect. They did. The ACC, no. So I don't understand the national disrespect, and I don't understand the committee's lack of wanting to put them into the tournament. But they've now proven 2 years in a row with the Miamis and the North Carolinas of the world that they deserve to be there. So I think that when you continuously prove that you should be there and the teams that you've been holding out spots for don't prove that, maybe it's time to change things. And I would say the same thing if the ACC had 8 schools and the Big Ten had 4 or 5 and the Big Ten was deserving of being there. At the end of the day, it shouldn't be about anything other than what you put on paper and what you actually did in games. And when you consider a conference to be weak or low at the beginning of the season, it creates a negative moniker, and no matter what that conference does, they can never shake it. And the ACC, for whatever reason, has gotten that for the last 2 years. It's beyond me why they've gotten it. It's unfair. It's wrong. And I'm happy that Jim Larranaga and Miami are in the Final Four to change it. Coming up now is my conversation with Brian Dutcher. Couple Q&As with Brian Dutcher, the head coach of San Diego State. This first one about not just San Diego State making history, but the history of the fact that we are seeing the Mountain West as a conference for the first time ever in the Final Four. So history upon history. And here's the thoughts.
Tortora, wakeupcalldt.com for coach as well as the student athletes. This is the first time that San Diego State has ever made it to the Final Four, and it's the first time that the Mountain West has ever been represented. Just what it means to be sitting in history right now.
Well, it's a vision Coach Fisher had all those years ago when he came to the Mesa, and we recruited and told people this is what we were going to do, and, they all thought it was just recruiting talk. But here we sit, and so thank you for Coach Fisher for building a great foundation, for our university for supporting us, and for these young guys for believing in that vision and making it come true.
Just that on that, I think we just picked up where all the guys that came before us left off. Going back to Brandon Heat, Malcolm Thomas, Billy White, even recently, Jordan Shackle, Matt Mitchell, KJ Fagan, all those guys. And so we're just blessed to be able to pick up where they left off and just to really represent them in the city of San Diego.
And getting to see this, and a big thanks to, once again, to San Diego State for taking the time to take the time and answer my question here. And I definitely appreciate that, and for a rope to add on to what Brian Dutcher had to say. I really appreciate that as well. The fact that this team has, and the thing is, the way that San Diego State is, and I respect this, and they're focused, This was a plan. This is where they wanted to be. This is what they wanted to do. They're not attacking this thing like they don't belong there. What I get from Brian Dutcher, and when I've spoken to him multiple times, and you take away from this team, they're focused, they're ready, they're excited. This isn't like yeah, we're happy to be here. It's we have work to do. And I spoke with Brian Dutcher about who the Aztecs are and how he would define them. And so he is here to share that with you today and more on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora.
I think the greatest thing is coaches are always motivated, trying to get the best out of a team. But we always say player-driven teams are better than coach-driven teams. And there are times during the year we're driving the team. On those days where they don't want to be there, we're trying to get the most out of them. And when they probably had a players-only meeting this year with AG, and they got more invested, we got better. And so it's hard to say they're going to be leading themselves every day, but we've had our greatest success when the team decides everything is important and they invest. And then with everybody invested, you can have great success.
And the definition is a quick follow-up of what San Diego State basketball is. I know you've reflected upon leadership that was there before you, but in this time period, in your era, how would you adequately define who the Aztecs are and what people should know about this program?
That we're gym rats, that we have kids that live in the gym, that we have kids with a chip on their shoulder. They're not McDonald's All-Americans, but they're really talented and they aspire to greatness. And that we have a coaching staff that works tireless hours to put our team in the best position to be successful.
Thank you, Coach. That coming here once again from Brian Dutcher, and I appreciate San Diego State taking some time here on the broadcast as we're here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life, spending time with every single member of the Final Four in NCAA Division I men's basketball, as I've had the opportunity, thanks to the NCAA and their terrific staff and everybody in media relations, that has allowed me the opportunity to connect with schools all over the country, all throughout the tournament. I'm very grateful for that, and I want to personally thank each and every one of these Final Four schools for what they've done to make themselves available with UConn, Miami, San Diego State, and FAU. You had the opportunity to hear from Brian White, the VP and Director of Athletics at Florida Atlantic University, a.k.a. FAU, a.k.a. the Beach Boys. And now you have the opportunity to hear from Dusty May. He has joined me throughout this tournament already, but this is never before seen footage of my conversation with Dusty May this week going into the Final Four. We'll start off with his thoughts on going back to that day where Brian White was going through the process, hiring him and his connection to the VP and Director of Athletics at FAU. Coach Dan Tortora, wakeupcalldt.com. I spoke with Brian White, VP and Director of Athletics, and he said day 2, I believe it was, the job opened up when he came onto the staff for FAU and was looking for the right coach. I know you have some history with him. I would love for you to reflect back on that time of him taking the job and very quick turnaround of you becoming the head coach and him believing in you in this program, your leadership over the last 5 years.
Yeah, Brian joined us at Louisiana Tech. I'm not sure which year, but he was on staff as associate AD. I believe he was in charge of tickets and marketing. The details are fuzzy now, but so I'd worked with him, traveled with him for a few years. And then obviously Coach White's one of my closest friends. So I know the entire family well. I've been there on holidays and whatnot. So we always had a relationship. And to be honest, I knew both of the finalists for the FAU athletic director job, and I'd worked with both of them. So I always felt like, man, if that job ever came open and one of these two guys get it, then I might have a shot at that, because head coaching positions are very difficult. I think initially when he got the job, I'd heard that there wasn't going to be a change made. And then shortly thereafter, they made a change. And I remember the call vividly. We got beat in the second round in Texas by Texas Tech in a really close, gut-wrenching game. And immediately walking into my hotel room about 2 hours after the game, the phone rang and it was Brian, and he said he would love to speak with me about the job. And we made arrangements to, I think we would go back to Gainesville on Sunday, and then on Monday my wife and I would drive down to see campus and check everything out. Or maybe it was Tuesday, I don't remember now exactly. So it all went it went fast. I came down and met with all the people that was involved in the process, and it just seemed like a great fit on both sides. So very appreciative of Brian taking the chance on us. These jobs are hard to get, but I did have a lot of, I guess, factors going for me, that I'd been in the league, I'd been in the state, we had won the league, I'd recruited this area extensively for years. So I had a lot of built-in advantages, and the administration, they liked the idea of one of the bigger schools in the state, someone from their staff's coming down and taking over. So I got very fortunate and ran with it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That coming from FAU head coach once again, Dusty May. We'll jump into a continuation of that conversation where I had the opportunity to speak with the head coach of FAU, Dusty May, about going back to that round of 64 game against Memphis, that if they did not get that layup by Nick Boyd with 2.6 seconds left, I believe it was, if they didn't get that at that time, we're not even talking about this run. So in that first win that they had, it came down to under 3 seconds on a layup to win by a point, and he reflects on that.
Moment now seems like about 9 years ago because of everything that's happened since. But, the resiliency of this group, we get down 5, we get down 7, whatever the case, and they never blink. They're inflappable. They respond well to adversity, and it's almost like a different level of competitiveness comes out when we do get behind by a couple points. And because they're not scared of the moment and they're not scared of failure, they shoot with confidence and trust each other. So, we've done that in the Memphis game. We've done it since. Obviously, the end of the Memphis game, Nick Boyd made an unbelievable decision and a great individual play. We've had different guys step up like that almost every single game. Mike Forrest steps in and drains the big free throws last game. John L. Davis has done it time and time again. Elijah Martin made 2 huge shots and got even 2 bigger rebounds against Kansas State. So I could go on and on and on talking about the big plays our guys made, but I do think that when whoever's on the floor or whoever's on the bench, someone believes that either them or one of their teammates are going to step up. They just don't know who at that moment, but somebody's going to.
And a quick follow-up to that, playing in the Garden, to be in Madison Square Garden in the mecca of basketball, just what that was like for you and your team to have not only that game and everything that was on the line in the game, but to also know that this is a world-class international, when someone walks into the Garden, it's going to be an event, and there's people all over the world that are watching that.
I think it just added to the moment. We've talked about it as a program. FAU is so new relative to everyone else. They only had a basketball program since the late 80s. It's not a 150-year-old land-grant institution. And so we've never had our moment, and we feel like this is our moment. And I think Garden, New York City, the bright lights, all of that is contributing to our guys captivating an area, an audience, so many people. And being doing it in New York City in the Garden and in the Mecca, it makes it that much more special.
Thank you, Coach, and good luck this week.
You're welcome. Thanks, Dan.
So that coming from Coach, and I did have an opportunity to get another question in here as I continue my focus here on FAU with Dusty May and the Beach Boys moniker. So we jump into the Beach Boy theme that has been said by his student athletes, and this is what he had to say.
Another coach in our league had made a comment about these guys. They play loose, they play free, they shoot a bunch of threes. They're down there by the beach, so they're kind of like the Beach Boys. And our guys took it a little bit of a slight, like we were being called soft. And I don't think it was intended like that, but we sometimes as coaches or players create narratives to, I guess, just for fuel and incentive to play harder. And so we played well that game and kind of got it going. So we kind of adopted the mantra that we're the Beach Boys on offense, but we're dogs on defense. And then that spun into Rottweilers and Pit Bulls. So that's kind of been what we talk about on offense. Let's play loose. Let's play free. Let's share the ball. Let's enjoy passing it. Let's play fast, get up and down. But then on defense, we've got to be locked in with 100% of intensity and focus that it takes to win. So we've just kind of separated both sides of the ball, that we want to be Beach Boys on one side, chilled, relaxed. And on the other side, we need to play with a little more fire and emotion.
And a quick follow-up to that. For you personally, in your journey from the moment that you started in the coaching world to right now, how are you seeing this run through your eyes? How are you experiencing it? I know that coaches always talk about after the fact, I'll reflect, but there's also the notion of living in the moment. So how are you living in the moment?
I'm not very good at living in the moment. I'm always kind of a planning for next, because it makes me feel better that we already have a plan for tomorrow's practice and we already are working on our game plan for Saturday's game. As long as there's always a next thing, I'm usually planning and working towards that. So even if the season ends, you're thinking about the next recruiting period and the next this and the next that. So that's how I live my life. I've always been that way. So I don't feel much different now than I did in January preparing for the Conference USA games. We have a very tough game Saturday. We love the process of watching film and studying and trying to figure out ways to give ourselves advantages. And so, I'm not, when you're in the eye of the storm, you better stay focused on what you need to do and have prepared. But I know after the season, when the whole thing slows down and we catch our breath, it's going to be awesome. But right now, we don't have time to think about that stuff.
We'll live in the moment for you, Coach. Thanks for your time.
Please, thank you. I know our families and friends and the students, everyone, they're all living in the moment. We still have work to do.
They're all living in the moment. We still have work to do. I love that. So great things coming up here, and so happy that I've had the opportunity. And again, I want to thank the NCAA. I want to thank, all of the coaches, the student athletes, the SIDs, the ADs, the support staff, the families, because without, all of you, this stuff doesn't happen. And, without having proper communication and good people working in the jobs that they're in, we don't get to do this stuff in the media. And so you got to shout out, the good ones. And I really do appreciate the schools for making the coaches and the student athletes available. I appreciate Brian White and our relationship over the last couple of years of him making himself available as VP and Director of Athletics at FAU to continue to tell these stories. So a big shout out to all of these, programs. I've covered Jim Larranaga for about a decade. If it's not a decade, it's really close to a decade now. So I appreciate what Jim Larranaga has done at Miami, and I appreciate everything that Dan Hurley's done to just raise up UConn. They were such a power, and I'm so used to them being a team, that you never wanted to see on any night in November, December, January, February, March, April. It didn't matter. And, to FAU and their incredible story and getting to know them when the announcement was made that they'd be moving to the American Athletic Conference and building a relationship with them in that world, and now seeing, what's going on here. So that's been so tremendous and so much fun for me. And then, on top of that, you look at San Diego State, and, San Diego State's name first came across my desk when Syracuse faced off against them on an aircraft carrier, off the coast of California. So, all of these schools I have a connection with in some way, and it's really interesting, having built a relationship over, recent time here with FAU, have been building for a decade a relationship with Miami, having, had a connection to UConn in the Big East, and they left the Big East, now they're back, in the Big East, and then San Diego State, like I said, with that aircraft carrier, a very notable and unique game that very few teams can ever say that they played. So, for me, all of these four teams have, I feel, some type of a cool connection to them, and I'm really, really happy for them. It is so hard, and if you've watched me in the last couple days talk about it, it's so hard to pick who would win. Now my bracket is done, right? My bracket's done. And I didn't pick chalk, but my bracket's done. But like a lot of people. But I will still, sit here and make a prediction for the sake of the prediction for the Final Four. And it was so tough. I think FAU is going to make it on their side. And that's not to take it away from San Diego State. my heart says FAU Miami, my mind says FAU UConn. And I know that I initially, when I was talking to Ross, I said FAU Miami. I think that it's probably, there's a really good chance it could be FAU UConn. But, I mean, I stick with what I say. And so I said FAU Miami, and Florida's going to have the national championship no matter what. But I could see UConn winning the entire thing. I really could. I could see San Diego coming down to those tight games, being stingy and getting past FAU, and then whoever they play making it interesting. I could see Miami and Jim Larranaga hoisting it up. I could see FAU winning a national championship in their first year that they've ever won a tournament game, and they've only been in the tournament one other time since they started playing D1 ball in 1993. So, there's no one of these four teams that I think can't win this national championship. I really believe that. I know in certain years people say, okay, here's the four, but this is really the one, or this is the two. This year, I could see any combination happening. I could see FAU Miami, FAU UConn. I could see San Diego State Miami, San Diego State UConn. And I think no matter what we get, it's going to be a wonderful finish to an incredible tournament that I told you literally anybody can win this thing, and they did not disappoint in that statement. So, I'm happy to see it, and I love it. I still keep my napkin here in the studio that says Houston no matter what, because I think a lot of people in the media, they change their mind and they hope that you forgot what they said. I believe in transparency and being honest and telling the truth, and the truth of the matter is I picked Houston and I was wrong, and I'm happy that these teams did what they did. I'm happy that they've won. I have no problem being wrong. I think one of the biggest problems in society are people that can't admit when they're wrong, can't accept when they're wrong, and won't tell people when they're wrong, and they try to bury the story of what they said beforehand. So I picked Houston. I was wrong. I had 3 of my 4 Final Four in the Sweet 16. I have none of them left. And these Final Four have proven that, as I said, they are the true number 1 seeds of their region. FAU winning the East, as well as San Diego State winning the South, Miami winning the Midwest, and winning the West UConn. So shout out to all those teams. A big thanks again to their institutions for allowing us the opportunity to speak with them, and thank you to the NCAA for allowing me to have coverage coast to coast of any team, anywhere, at any time, including 1 o'clock in the morning. So a big thanks to all of them, and a big thanks to the coaches and student athletes that joined me, and to be able to say that the entire Final Four has been represented here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora just in one day alone in our Q&A conversation. So we'll take a final step aside. We'll wrap up the show right after this.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
This is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating. Find them at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and all the time online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, you can order all throughout the country at maandpaspopcorn.com. And remember to get your tins, which have in-store half-price refills forever. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, available to you for fundraising and all of your events by calling 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
Woody Wicks Candles and Gift Shop, Township 5 Camillus, where you will find handcrafted all-natural soy wax candles over 60 cents to freshen up your home. We carry a wide range of locally made items, Salsa Q's, Syracuse Salt, and Chocolate Pizza Company, to name a few. Let our knowledgeable staff help choose unique gifts and keepsakes for any occasion. Gifts for family and friends, and maybe a little something for yourself. Woody Wicks Candles and Gift Shop, Township 5 Camillus.
This is a special message from Merritt Brady, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Watertown on 1290 Arsenal Street in Watertown, New York.
Chick-fil-A for me has always been about the people. I think it starts with the strength and leadership of the Cathy family. It's just amazing to see a family-run business reach the altitude that they have. Second mile service is something that we embodied at my previous business, and the ability to make people feel like they're the only person at your establishment, that you are there to serve them that day and looking for those extra ways to make them happy, to anticipate what they need next is what makes me tick. And I'm going to have so many opportunities at Chick-fil-A to do that. It's one of my favorite things to eat in the world. My favorite application question or interview question when I'm interviewing is when I get to, have you ever eaten at Chick-fil-A? And a smile hits both their ears. You know, they can't even answer the question for a second. And when I see that, it's like, man, that's going to be a great hire. They already get it. They already feel it. They already know that we're different. The Chick-fil-A experience, it's a real thing. And then, of course, just our generosity and community involvement and making a positive impact in the lives of our team members, our guests, and the community in general, I think is really the secret sauce.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, hanging out with you where sports truly meets that thing called life. And I want to thank you for being a part of this show and every broadcast of Wake Up Call, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on YouTube.com, Facebook.com, both / Wake Up Call DT, Facebook.com / Live Now DT, and now on Podbean on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. Once the shows go live, they jump into the archives. You could search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora or one word, Wake Up Call DT, on any one of these outlets. Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, MixLR, Podbean, Podvine, TuneIn, Player FM, Spotify, Stitcher, and YouTube. Find your way to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on any one of these outlets, or you can go to any search engine and search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and you will find us in many places, including all of these wonderful places. So if you want to go back and listen to over 1,000 episodes, you have plenty of places to choose from just by searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora or one word, Wake Up Call DT. When you're on any one of these avenues, make sure you click follow or subscribe so that when the shows have an extra broadcast added to the archive, when we update that archive, you'll be notified. Thanks to all of our incredible partners at Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Woody Wicks, PB&J's Lunchbox, Air, Avicoli's, Almond Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Mother's Cupboard, 317 at Montgomery. The name of the restaurant is the name of the location. Great, and a big shout out to Joel Carpenter and a happy birthday to 317 at Montgomery Street owner. Go hang out, slap him high five, wish him a happy birthday, and enjoy the fantastic food of 317 that you won't find anywhere else today. Great Lakes Honda City, Chick-fil-A Watertown, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Chick-fil-A Cicero, and Chick-fil-A Clay, Pizza Man, where we're going to be having our draft broadcast once again this season. Very excited for that. And, of course, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Moyne College Dolphins. It is Fins Up every single month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You're hanging out with the Dolphins and with me every single Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Wednesdays at 9, Dolphin Time. The Moyne College Dolphins have had unprecedented coverage in our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership, getting weekly coverage and coverage of every single sport on campus. Unprecedented, and I am so thankful, so grateful that Moyne has entrusted me with the opportunity to do this. I love all of the bridges that we've gotten to build and the amazing people that I have met on campus and beyond. Every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Dolphin Time, the first and third Wednesday of each month, and bonus weeks like this week. So when there's an extra Wednesday in the month, we have the opportunity to bring you another AD and DT. So first and third Wednesday of each month, sometimes a bonus one with Athletics Director Bob Beretta and myself, Dan Tortora. And every second and fourth Wednesday, Dolphin Dive. Diving into the stories of student athletes, coaches, administration, future Dolphins, and alumni. And coming up this Friday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, we will have a bonus Dolphin Dive as I will be joined by Liz Bevel, the head coach of the lacrosse team, ahead of the Phin Phrenzy doubleheader on Saturday, April 1st. So make sure that you tune in this Friday to hear from Liz about Moyne Dolphins women's lacrosse. For all of our coverage of the Dolphins, you can go to the Moyne tab on wakeupcalldt.com. And of course, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel at wakeupcalldt. For more information on your Dolphins, go to lemoynedolphins.com. If it was, I was going to say if it was up to me, but it is up to me. I do run this show, but I want to play that music for minutes and just sit here and dance in the studio to it. And I feel like for those of you that listen to the show, you start bopping in the car, hey, at the end of the show, Dan's going to play that music, and you get ready for it. And then you do that little move, you do that little shimmy with your shoulders. I know you. I feel it. I like it. Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse, exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, bringing you the Bobcat Buzz. Men's and women's soccer, men's and women's basketball, the inaugural baseball season, esports, and more. Student athletes, coaches, and administration call Wake Up Call home. And you will find them on our BSC Syracuse tab on wakeupcalldt.com, which has recently been updated to give you our full library of Bryan and Stratton College Bobcat specials that you won't find anywhere else, with coverage and a spotlight on Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse that has never been done before to this degree and this way. You'll also find them on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/wake up call. I don't know why I do that sometimes. They /. So it's because when you have an old Italian family, that's how they say Daniel, the /. And so youtube.com/wake up call DT. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, search Bobcat Buzz to find all of our content. For more information on your Bobcats, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, I want to give a big thank you to Bob Beretta joining me this morning for AD and DT and everything that they're doing this weekend for the Phin Phrenzy, as well as what's coming up to celebrate the history of the baseball team and the history of the women's lacrosse team. A lot of great events coming up on the Heights, including this Saturday, April 1st, 11 a.m. for the women's lacrosse game, 2 p.m. for the men's lacrosse game. Fan events throughout, autograph signings. Bring your kids, bring your family, bring grandma and grandpa, mom and dad, and come hang out this Saturday, April 1st. And you have no excuse because the Final Four is at nighttime and these games are in the early afternoon. So come out and see them on the Heights, Moyne College at Ted Grant Field for a doubleheader of women's and men's lacrosse and fan events, including autograph signings, which I think are some of the greatest things that you could do, because of the effect it has on a kid, and that's coming from a kid who was positively affected by autograph signings when I was little, and my parents brought me to get my stuff signed, be it a poster or a ball or whatever it is. So bring your kids out this weekend, and bring out those lacrosse sticks, those posters, those pictures, and whatnot, and get them signed, and let's have a great event together on the Heights. Many thanks to Brian White. That phone, like he said, keeps on buzzing, but he answered my call. I appreciate it very much. FAU VP and Director of Athletics Brian White joining the show to give an inside look at FAU for those who know the university and those who don't, a behind-the-scenes look at everything that has happened in the last 5 years. He was hired 2 days before the men's basketball job opened. So Dusty May's 5 years, Brian White got there right before that started. He hired Dusty May within the first couple weeks, and here we are at the Final Four. So that incredible story of the last 5 years with Brian White coming into FAU, Dusty May coming into FAU, and this team realizing a lot of dreams all in the same season. You don't want to miss it. You can go back and watch it at noon Eastern time today. That special with FAU VP and Director of Athletics Brian White will air as its own individual piece on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt and on facebook.com/wakeupcalldt. So if you missed it this morning, missed parts of it, or you just want to take it and share it with someone, the individual special between myself and Brian White of FAU will air at noon today to the world, youtube.com and facebook.com/wakeupcalldt. And then NCAA logo signifying my appreciation for the NCAA and their media relations in making it possible for us to speak with teams from all across the country. And a big thanks to everyone who joined me here today, including Arope and Brian Dutcher of San Diego State for the Aztecs. For the FAU Owls, a big thanks to head coach Dusty May. For the UConn Huskies, a big thanks to their head coach Dan Hurley. And many, many thanks over the years and now to head coach of the Miami Hurricanes, Jim Larranaga. With that being said, find us on Facebook at WakeUpCallDT, the Twitter at CallDT, and Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT. And as always, from the Cafe Kubal Studios, God bless, no stress, do your best.